you're interested in sustainability and climate science and like me, but might always be looking for innovative solutions in that area, definitely stick around. I've got an amazing inventor, very inspiring person, someone I've been chatting with for pretty close to a year now. I think she's amazing. She's here in New York. We're going to talk to her about her business. So again, if sustainability, climate, and really caring about the environment is important to you, then stick around. I think you'll enjoy this. I'm Ed Amoroso from TAG. Welcome to our video today. We're going to be talking to a very inspiring founder, somebody that when I first met, I thought she's either crazy or a genius, and I think it's the latter. I think she's a genius. I think we're going to be chatting with somebody who's rethinking supply chain, doing some very interesting things around plastics and sustainability, replacement for plastics. I think you're going to enjoy it. I have Sharina Perry here. Sharina, how are you doing? Welcome to our studio here in New York.
Thank you, Ed. I'm excited to be here.
So Utopia Plastix. When you first told me about it in the supply chain, you probably remember me saying, "You're doing what?"
I do remember.
And then you said, all right, tell me more. And then after about the 11th time, I got it. And I said, I think you got something cool. Share with everybody just briefly what you do, and then we can get into it a little bit.
Well, Ed, Utopia Plastix is a plant-based alternative to your traditional fossil fuel polymers. And really what we do is we're actually using plant material in plastics applications, which is very different from other alternatives. So when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about how we use our natural resources, how we come up with solutions, we really did that through Utopia Plastix. But we had to build a model to do it, and that's around how we built our supply chain.
When did you first get the idea? I think there's some really interesting inspiration around this. Where did it first come to you?
Well, my first study of plant material was really when my nephew was diagnosed with neurofibromatosis 2. So that was that deep dive into understanding plant material, and I studied over 600 white papers. In the process of developing a health and wellness line, I also learned that plant material could actually be an alternative to petroleum, cotton, and wood, and it was specific plants that would be able to do that. And it was kind of learning what was happening with bans across the world, around what was happening on our coast, these bans of single-use plastics. But then just being in a space, my nephew had been neurofibromatosis 2, this impact and this growth of tumors closely linked to environmental impacts. And unfortunately, disproportionately affects minority communities. So understanding how communities were being impacted, all of this education around it led me to one day, I was insignificant moment. It was, I was at a restaurant and I had a paper straw and it broke down. And immediately, you know, been an entrepreneur for over 25 years, nationwide company, had seen how when industry leaves, how it impacts areas. And so that day, this education vision of Utopia, a lot of questions ran through my head. And it was like, paper straws can't possibly be a solution to plastic straws when we're causing another problem. We're cutting down trees in an environmental crisis. So I immediately thought, well, what about these plants I had been studying? And I had come up empty. There was a lot of research done on it, but no one had executed, actually delivering a solution to the market. So that day I said I was going to make a straw in my kitchen.
You kept using the term rethink when we first started discussing that. I think that's a theme. You guys are fundamentally rethinking things we all know about. Everybody knows plant-based materials, not a new topic, but you've come up with a way to really rethink how this is done. In a little bit I'm going to talk supply chain, but tell me, is that a theme like this? You're taking some things that are very familiar, it's not brand new stuff, but just redoing how we would apply and utilize those resources.
You know, there's a saying that you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
So at some point, you have to rethink it.
That was Einstein, right?
Right?
You remind me of Einstein. You're like, oh, I think I'll just learn this hard thing. Well, but keep going.
But we really have to begin to rethink it, and that requires out of the box thinking. I can't adopt what is normally done to create that solution.
Right.
And I think at the core, that's probably very much who I am, because I'm, one, very solution driven. So when I took the approach to it, my goal was, how do we find a solution?
Yeah.
And then, of course, anytime you bring something new, you have to educate. So education, I could educate you in what we've been doing, and unfortunately, that's what the industry has continued to do when talking about alternatives to plastics.
Yeah.
So, but what I had learned and what I saw was something totally different. And as a result, pursued the path of doing something different. And it's proven to have both positive environmental outcomes and mechanical and technical performance for manufacturers.
It's funny that you brought up straws, because the straw is such an insignificant thing, but it's an important metaphor, almost like a symbol, where if somebody feels the paper straw fall apart, it's almost like they extrapolate that to the whole field of sustainability, which is crazy. So it becomes like a proxy for how people think about it. I was so glad when you told me you're doing the straws, because again, I think that they're outsized in their impact. You know, if you do the math on it, yeah, there's bigger things to solve, but it's an important piece of it. Now, I want to talk about supply chain, because I think you've hit on some real innovations. I haven't even told you, I think it goes beyond your business. But share a little bit about the insight on how you've, again, I'm going to use the word rethink, because I think that's what you do, how you rethought supply chain, because you don't have 10,000 people working for you, but you've got quite a bit going on. How do you accomplish that?
Well, one, you have to take I think 2020 COVID kind of even highlighted more the value of what we were doing. When supply chain breaks down, or you have to, how do I supply? How to become vertically integrated? So for me, it was this adoption of a new material. How do you deliver it to the market? How do you make an impact? Also, cost is a factor. Logistics are a part of.
The new material is the plant-based
Actual plant
material.
material.
So start with that. So you've had some innovated right off the bat with a new type of use for something you plant.
Yeah. So we
how does
typically
that work?
use cover crops.
Yeah.
So cover crops are typically planted in rotation to remediate soil and restore nutrients back to a soil. So like if a farmer is growing wheat or corn, or they're growing, pardon me, or if they're growing soy, at some point they're going to have to stop and plant a crop to add nutrients back.
And this starts with the farmer, right?
It starts with the farmer.
Like you were
so you're taking a
thought,
community-based model.
Sharina's actually like I didn't get that in the beginning, but you start right with the farmer.
And now you have one of the largest industries in the world, plastics. So a farmer is producing the product that we use, the crop that does the product every day. What kind of land do they use?
Is it usually unused land, or something they're doing in lieu of something else?
So typically a cover crop is planted in rotation, and it's done occasionally. We intentionally plant cover crops, but the value of it is we're absorbing carbon at 4 to 5 times the rate of trees, 8 times that of evergreen trees. So the climate impact, and that's part of the rethinking.
It's a double impact.
Right. We could come up with a solution to plastics all day long, but is it really a solution if we're doing the same thing? Is it really an environmental solution? And sustainability is really around the positive impact we make on our environment, our society, and our economy. So when we're talking about starting at the farmers spend money in their local communities.
Right.
It's economic development. It's generational wealth and opportunity. It's now the opportunity for major corporations to be involved, and actually farmers outside of their communities growing the crops that produce the products that they use every day.
That's so cool.
So
that's step one. So now the farmer grows this thing, and you were telling me it grows fast.
Yes. It grows twice a year, and it can grow in sandy loam. It grows like a weed. It's pretty easy.
I'm no farmer, I'm from New York, but it's like I should come chop the
Low
stuff.
water maintenance, that's another key part. We don't use any fertilizers or pesticides either. So there's not the other harmful impacts. So you look at what happened in the farming industry. Fertilizer was hard to come by once we had the war in Ukraine. And so that factor too, it's choosing something that actually does not do any harm. Our motto is we don't create problems as we solve them. And so intentionally, where we start, what we choose to do has to be a part of that rethinking the solution that we're coming up with.
So farmer then sends it to
A processor. So the crop is processed. We don't use any chemical process in that. So we're not extracting, we're not fermenting, we're actually using the crop.
But what does a processor do? They're taking this and they're
So there are certain
heating
elements
it up,
no,
or,
actually, so when you take in a crop, there's moisture in the crop. So it's drying, it's separating, it's blending, it's milling, it's bagging. So it's processing a crop.
Got it.
And then from once that's processed, it goes over to pelletizing.
Yeah, you make these pellets. You show me a picture of that.
And so the pellets are then a drop-in replacement. So actually have two technologies. So it went far beyond a straw. Once we actually move past the R&D and we're advancing to commercialization, what we realized after we had our studies done, we actually had a drop-in replacement that a manufacturer could use in almost every application that they would use traditional plastics without modifying their equipment. And so our IP includes not only a drop-in alternative, but we weren't really a solution if we didn't examine the impact of plant material on traditional petroleums.
Right.
And so the IP also includes a formulation that can be added to other materials and enhance their environmental and mechanical properties.
So now I got pellets. Where do they go?
So then the pellets go to a manufacturer and they'll drop them in.
People might be using plastics to make straws, would buy pellets to make alternatives.
Yes. Today a manufacturer purchases, he might purchase a Gaylord, he may purchase a truckload, he may purchase a rail car, he may purchase a freight container. But what they do is they then load those in, and once those pellets melt down, they're formed. And so you have blow molding, injection molding, blown film, thermoforming, 3D, all of these different applications for our end products.
Can you use existing equipment with the plant material? Like
Absolutely.
You don't have to
no modification.
reinvent that.
But what we have found is a manufacturer actually lowers their temperatures and gets a good yield. They also, recently we did blow molding with our material. The manufacturer lower air as well as water. The air is used in a cooling and the water in a cooling process. Well, when the air, it has to blow that mold out and then the water cools it. Plant material actually is stronger. It will expand without having to have as much air, and then it cools faster. We've seen some natural barrier properties in water, in heat as well, that occur with the plant material. Density, it's a lighter weight material, but it's stronger as well. So now you have key performance indicators that when you have truly sustainable material that can be captured in manufacturing. And those key performance indicators we've identified is 1, the carbon reduction, 2, the energy savings, 3, the air quality in the manufacturing facility and the health outcomes for the employees, as well as waste, because our material can also be, if the manufacturer has waste, they can shred that, reinsert it back into their systems and still produce material.
From the time you approach the farmer, with, in some sense, I think of that almost as your IP, like what you're helping them, to the time I lift this cool straw that I bought, is that a month, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year? Is it about a year probably?
So
or what would that
120 to 180 day growing cycle, depending on where you're at with
2 to 3 months.
With the farmer.
3 to
so
4 to
you
5
have a
months,
growth
right.
cycle. And so when you're building supply chain and scale, you have to do those projections and move backward.
Yeah.
So if I need a commitment from a manufacturer that they're going to use 1 million, 2 million pounds a month, and then we grow according to that.
Right.
And we let them know we're able to supply a portion of your materials today, but we will scale into the amount that's necessary. We don't really build our model around spot buys because it doesn't create the impact, the social side and the economic side for what sustainability is. We are built along partnerships, and we do it through strategic partnerships in every area of our supply chain.
So several months to grow the thing, and then the few more
The processing,
months.
from the processing
3,
to the
4 months or
pelletizing
less?
time, oh yeah, it's significantly less
A month?
because we own our supply chain.
Okay.
So when it goes to our processing and manufacturing, that process is a matter of weeks. So it can be accomplished within a month. And so then at that point, we usually project for scale 3 to 6 months for us to grow into what a manufacturer needs. But to be able to deliver a solution to a manufacturer, the time is
And
much
you're
quicker.
sitting there with a dashboard through it. You're like NASA or something. You're like watching this whole thing and orchestrating each step. When we first told me about this, I thought, there must be a million things that come up. Like you must be working every second. Or have you automated some of that? Or what's the point? Because it's a beautiful concept. And I think I told you could do this. You make all kinds of things that way.
It actually can, through what we've done, be an adoptive industry standard.
It's
And that's
really
really
cool
why we
concept.
defined it as the Utopia model, that you really are creating this community model with people working together,
Right.
bringing and delivering solutions
It's a
to
great
the
idea.
market.
But seems like it would be very hard, or am I missing something?
The thing is, we are in a technology age. So some of that process, though, does not have to be as automated as you think. When you move into doing a lot of things with chemicals and things like that, you have to have more. We're not doing a chemical process in what we're doing. So what we're doing from the grow operation, it's building a model. And we have companies that govern each part of that communicate with it. So Eden Grow oversees our relationship with farmers. Utopia Solutions is our leg of processing to the pelletizing, and then Utopia Genetics, or DBA Utopia Brands, they are the relationship for delivering distribution and sales and marketing and strategic partnerships to deliver the solution to the market. So Utopia Genetics actually buys from Utopia Solutions. Utopia Solutions buys from
You're
Eden
an
Grow.
amazing person. I'm glad I never had to take a class with you. I'm guessing you were the curve buster in class.
I had a few times that
I'm going to guess. Everybody knows someone like you. You're quite an inspiration. I hope your business becomes the next Amazon. It'd be good for the planet.
I hope what we do becomes bigger than Amazon.
Good
and
for
that
you.
Utopia Plastix
If anybody
will be a
else
household
came in
name.
here, I'd be going, nah. But I have a feeling with you that's probably right. So
Utopia
at some
Plastix
point,
will be a household name for sure.
this will be a video that we'll go back and look at. Sharina, it's wonderful that you had some time to stop by. Keep doing what you're doing at Utopia. We're big fans. Keep it going.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Great. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time.